Hey guys, and welcome back to another tasty Blender 2.82 tutorial. Today we are doing something special. We'll be learning about rigid body simulations, we'll use some forces, and we'll also do texture unwrapping for spheres. It's going to be a very easy tutorial, very easy to follow, so let's get into it. I'm going to open Blender 2.8, I'm going to delete everything in the scene, and I'm going to add a cube. Now this is going to be our main sphere. There's a particular way I go about modeling spheres and then applying the textures that I apply to them. So I'm going to press Ctrl 2 to put a subdivision of 2 on the sphere. I'm going to go into my modifiers tab and I'm going to add a cast modifier and change the factor to 1. Apply all of these modifiers, and now that I have this, I will go into edit mode and loop select the first circle, like so. So I have this. When I have loop selected it, I'm going to press Ctrl E and I'm going to press mark seam. Press A to select everything, U for unwrap, and unwrap my sphere. I'm doing this now because in a couple of minutes we'll have more spheres and it's just going to be more work to do it that way. So I'm just preparing and unwrapping and setting the base material right now, so then it's easier to change it when it's a bit further on. I'm going to add a new material. This new material is going to be, let's say, smiling face. Now that I have this material, I'm going to split my view and split it again on the right side. The first one is going to be the UV editor and the second one is going to be the shader editor. I'm going to press N and you can see that we already have the principled BSDF. Now I'm going to click on the principled BSDF, Ctrl T, which will put in the texture coordinate mapping and image texture node. This is a very useful shortcut for really quick shader assemblies. I'm going to open my image texture and I've prepared something in advance, so 2 types of faces. So I'm going to load up one specific face. Now in my UV editor, I'm going to press Tab and I get this. Now I want to select this large circle first. So I have everything selected. I want to make sure that I'm not touching any vertices up here. I'm going to scale it down and I'm going to move it, let's say, over here, like the bottom right of the picture. Now I'm going to select these faces on the top left, move them by pressing G towards the center of the face. Now if I scale this up and if I rotate it, I can now go in my material view and see that I have my face where I've set up my seams. It's turned around, which is not a huge problem. I'm just going to press R and rotate it by 90 degrees, like so. Perfect. And that's how I usually apply things to sphere when it comes to materials. I would in some cases also go with all of these vertices, as you can see over here. So I have a unwrapped sphere, or I would just select all of the vertices, U, and then sphere projection. But for the purposes of this tutorial, for setting the face in front of the ball, it's good enough. Now I can move ahead, so I'm just going to collapse these menus. So I've set my materials in advance, now I can work on the physics. What I want to do now is Shift D to duplicate, and I want to move this sphere to the right. And I want to make, let's say, 9 spheres, or 3 times 3, yeah. So I'm going to add a modifier, and I'm going to add 3 array modifiers. The first one, I'm going to set the X offset to 1.05 and I'm going to set the count to 3. The second one, I'm going to set the relative offset to Y and it's going to be 1.05. So again, the same offset and a count of 3. And the third one is going to be on the Z axis and 0.5 again with a count of 3. So I have this lovely collection over here. Now what I want to do is I want to make these into singular objects. So I'm going to apply all of these modifiers. And this is a trick from Blender Guru, where you select everything you've created with arrays and then you just press P and separate by loose parts. So you have them all disconnected. Last thing I want to do is object and then set origin to geometry. So it's going to put the geometry directly to all of the spheres. Now I can take care of the physics. Since I have all of these selected, I can just go into my physics, rigid body, and I'm going to set the active convex hull. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to move these spheres, let's say slightly to the right, because the main sphere over here, I'm just going to scale it up, and I'm going to Control A, reset the scale, so it's a bit larger. Set a rigid body for it too, but it's going to be passive. Now to make this trick work, we don't need any gravity. So I'm going to go into my scene properties and I'm just going to uncheck gravity. Now if we press play, it's just going to stay still. So inside of our large sphere, I'm going to add a force field like so. And I'm going to set the strength to, let's say, -100 for now. And I can change this later on. Let's press play and see how they behave. So right now, just one of the spheres got attracted to it. How can we solve that problem? Well, I'm going to go into wireframe, C, and then select all of the spheres, all of the smaller spheres that is. I'm going to select the one with the physics last. Press space or F3 if you're using 2.8 shortcuts. And I'm going to say copy rigid body settings. And this will copy all of the settings to all of these spheres. Last thing we can do is just set a subdivision modifier, set the viewport. We can leave it at 2. Press W, shade smooth, so everything is smooth. Control L, and then select modifiers. This is going to copy all of the modifiers to all of these spheres. Now if we press play, you can see all of the spheres are reacting to the force field, like so. Perfect. This is what we wanted. I'm gonna go into front view and let's go into our material view to see how everything looks. Select the main sphere. I'm going to add a subdivision to the main sphere as well. Shade smooth. That's it. I can also restart the animation so that the distribution is a bit more precise. That's it. We have these small, nice balls hanging around with this huge one. Now, one thing I also want to solve is I want to have a different face for the smaller faces, let's say, so we can make it just a bit trickier. So how can we change this? Now, I'm going to go into wireframe mode again, and I'm going to select all of these faces. Return to solid view, or rather material view, so we know what's happening. And I'm going to go into my materials. Now, I want to change this face to be, let's say, a smiling one with an open mouth. So I've prepared a file for that. And I'm going to do the following. I'm going to select the copy material in the drop-down menu here in the material tab. So this is copying the active material. I'm going to take away this material and I'm going to add a new one. And here I'm going to press paste material. I'm going to divide the screen again and I'm going to go into shader editor. Press N. I have a better view. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my image texture and I'm going to select the other face. And you can see we have this smiling face over here. But now how can we make this smiling face go to all of these other spheres? Well, just go into the same drop-down menu where you copied your material and press copy material to select it. And that's it. That solves your problem. If we press play, we have all of these happy guys hanging around our big brother over here. So now we know how to set up a rigid body simulation, how to unwrap and set up the materials, or rather the images for our spheres. If you want to see my process of lighting and then fine-tuning the materials, leave a comment or drop a like. It lets me know that you're interested, and I will do a tutorial explaining also my lighting and rendering process, or rather settings. So yeah, this is it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, if you liked the video, if you have any further comments, please drop them down below in the comment section. I always try to check my comment sections. I try to see if you guys have any trouble or if there's any good suggestions that I can do. So I always appreciate you leaving comments. Thank you so much for following and see you in the next one.